Well, the red flag warning is now in effect.
Yep.
And earlier today, I didn't really notice much of the wind, but it was really cold.
You notice cooler temperatures.
I noticed a cooler temperature.
Morning lows is where we're going to feel that the most, and I'll show you how we're going to notice that tomorrow. But the bigger issue is the wind. And you were just talking about Santa Cruz Mountains, where you haven't really noticed a whole lot there yet either. Let me show you how this will play out and why this is something to pay attention to. For most of us, this is like, what's going on? I haven't noticed a thing. And if you looked at the satellite, you'd be like, what's going on? There's nothing there. And there isn't really, but when we change our perspective, you're going to see why we've got fire weather concerns now. Look at this trough of low pressure that just pushed down a whole batch of very dry air. You can see it showing up there kind of in that rust-colored patch. This is the water vapor imagery, so it shows us where the dry air is. But more importantly, it shows us how the atmosphere is putting a strong direction of flow towards us. If we look at the relative humidity, and we can visualize that now, we're just looking at relative humidity in the atmosphere. Knowing what's coming down from the north, watch what happens. This is from yesterday into tomorrow morning. And now you can see all that dry air coming in on those strong northerly winds. That's probably the most impactful visualization to kind of help us see what's going on. But to get the specifics on here, relative humidity is just one small aspect of this. And look at tomorrow morning, when we get into the peak, those numbers went down to like single digits. And of course, that's because we've got these strong northeasterly winds that are rushing in across the Bay Area mountains, whether it's the North Bay, the East Bay, or you are included in this down in the Santa Cruz Mountains, where we're going to have gusts there probably higher than that 18. We'll probably see gusts get up to closer to 40 miles an hour coming across the Santa Cruz Mountains. So that's why we've got a red flag warning. If there's any good news here, and there is some good news, remember last winter? We're not critically dry. Still, even now, at the end of October, the landscape from that standpoint is so much better off than it has been in previous years at this point in the year. But because these are still fairly strong and dry winds at higher elevations, we've got a red flag warning, and I pointed this out at the top of the newscast, but I'll say it again. Normally, it's just in the mountains when we have these. But this one does include the valleys in the North Bay, because as we get into tomorrow morning, the wind speeds will pick up, even down at some of the lower elevations. Your time frame to notice the wind in places like Santa Rosa, Petaluma tomorrow will be between, like, say, 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. That's when the wind speeds are going to pick up in the overnight hours, unfortunately. Going to be cold tomorrow morning. I think when we do get those downslope winds, Santa Rosa, you might not have to go all the way down to 37. So there could be a positive to this if you don't want to get too cold and we avoid any issues from any fire weather concerns. But everybody else goes down to the low and mid 40s. When we look at daytime highs tomorrow, these are not the story. Temperatures aren't really budging a whole lot. And when we look at the 7-day forecast, temperatures are not the story. It's this day. So we've still got tomorrow is still very much in first alert status. Then we'll be out of it. By 5 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be done. And then there really isn't a whole lot in the 7-day forecast. If you want to be technical about it, see how the clouds increase by Thursday and Friday of next week? You barely even notice the temperatures drop. But that increase in clouds comes along with about a 10% chance of maybe some light rain. More on that as we get closer